Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim, Habaim. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are on Daf Yud, Amud Aleph, 14 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned. L'schut Refuat Shelemav, Sarah Bat Mina, Binyamin Eliezer Kohen Ben Malka, Zivug for Gilhat Ben Mordechai Ariel, healthy delivery for Talia Bat Rivka, Datam Parasa for Abraham Raphael. This week's learnings of the community has been sponsored by Dayan family, by Kohen family, and by Shei families. Should be ultimate schut for them. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Zamud also has been specifically dedicated for Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, that should have full recovery. Refuah Shelema, Amen. So we are now discussing some of the psukim that are spoken about Galut, but the Gemara is going to take a little dive, a tangent into the importance of learning Torah as well. We already had in the previous shiur that a Talmid shegala maglin rabo imo, like a student goes to Galut, the Rebbe has to go with him as well, because that is life. That is like the basic lifeline of a person, to have his Rebbe with him. And a Rav Shegala, a Rebbe that goes to Galut, the entire yeshiva goes with him as well. So either a Rav or a Talmid that goes to Galut, the entire yeshiva, including the Rebbe and all the other Talmidim, go to Are Miklat. You'll all of a sudden have a new yeshiva popping up in Are Miklat because of somebody that went to Galut. Now, the last thing that we spoke about was the love of Moshe Rabbeinu, ohev kesef lo yispa kasef, and the Gemara said this is Moshe Rabbeinu. The ultimate currency of life, the real kesef, is the mitzvot. And Moshe Rabbeinu, even though that he knew that the 3 Are Miklat be'ever HaYarden is not going to be operational until Yehoshua 14 years later is going to set up the other 3 in the west side of the Yarden, still he said, mitzvah sheba leyadi akayemena. I have an opportunity to do mitzvah. He grabbed the opportunity of being able to do one last mitzvah before his passing. So it says now the Gemara, Umi oeh behamon lo tevuah. We have a pasuk that now the Gemara is going to discuss it. This is again the first half of the pasuk was what we just darshin, ohev kesef lo yispa kasef umi ohev behamon lo tevuah. That's the full pasuk that we had in the previous shiur from Kohelet Perek Hey pasuk tet, ohev kesef lo yispa kasef umi ohev behamon lo tevuah gam ze hav. That's the pasuk from Shlomo HaMelech. Now the Gemara is going to darshan the second part of this in many different scenarios and drushes. So says the Gemara, Umi ohev behamon lo tevuah means lemi na'el lelamed behamon, who is a teacher, a fit person for teaching the masses. Mishakol tevuah shelo. That's the person that has the entirety of tevuah, of the produce, in his domain. That means, who is a fit teacher? You shouldn't be learning just from anybody, but the proper teacher is someone that knows the whole shas, knows the whole tevuah is in his hand. Then you could, my Rebbe used to say, he could tell when learning with his first grader. So I could tell from him how big of a Talmid Chacham his Rebbe is. Because if you're a big Talmid Chacham, when you're teaching first grade, it's a different teaching. It's not that, I know Aleph Bet, everyone knows Aleph Bet. I'm going to teach Aleph Bet. If you have a Talmid Chacham teaching the smallest, least significant part of the Torah, is also a different teaching. So says the Gemara, who is fit for being melamed lehamon, to be the teacher of masses? Mishakol tevuah shelo, someone that has the entirety of Torah in his domain. Vehainu da'amar Rabbi Elazar. This is what Rabbi Elazar taught. My dichti, what does it say in pasuk? Mi yemalel gevurot Hashem yashmiya kol teilato. Who is fit for saying, speaking out gevurot Hashem, the greatness of Hashem, to teach His Torah? למי נאה למלא אל גבורות השם, מי שיכול להשמיע כל תהילתו. You could open your mouth to teach Torah only if you could say the whole thing. You're not fit for being a rebbe, being a teacher, being a rabbi, if you don't have everything under your belt. It's a pretty high standard, but it is the standard that the Gemara sets forth for basic standards and requirements of being a Torah teacher. They darshan did a little differently. That the person that loves their Hamon is going to have tevuah. Kol ha'ohev be'hamon lo tevuah. That means anyone that loves the Torah, loves the Talmidei Chachamim, genuinely respects the scholars of Torah, he will have children that will be scholars of Torah. He will have children that will be Talmidei Chachamim. This really is a Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Chav Gimel. The Gemara there says, Ha'ohev Talmidei Chachamim. If someone loves Talmidei Chachamim, Ha'yim Balim Talmidei Chachamim. Will have children, will marry to have children who are Talmidei Chachamim. Someone that reveres Talmidei Chachamim, then he will have even son-in-laws that are going to be Talmidei Chachamim. There's a way to explain this, how the depth of this works really, but in a simple format, right? Somebody was telling me that this big Talmidei Chacham once went to one of the Gdolim and said, I don't get it. I'm learning Torah the whole day, and my children are whatever, not Talmidei Chachamim. My neighbor is like a regular working guy, and all of his children are Talmidei Chachamim. So this Gadol, instead of quoting this Gemara, I say, Ayin Makkot, Daf Yud, Ayin Shabbat, Daf Chav Gimel. He told him the logic behind it. He said, look, you're a Talmid Chacham. You come home after the drasha of the Rav in the shul, and you're like, he missed this Gemara, he missed that Rashi, this Ramban, that Tosafot, right? And your children, that's what they see. You don't respect Talmidei Chachamim. The other guy, he's a regular guy. He works the whole week. He comes and says, you have no idea what the rabbi said. And he's like, the sparkle in his eyes and the twinkle in his eyes, and he's lighting up saying the thing. The kids say, wow, the most important thing is being the Rav. Look at how much my father reveres and loves the rabbi. They wanted to be that. Your kids didn't want to be that. Because that's like a logical way of explaining it. But the Maaseh, you have it, the Gemara in Makkot Daf Yud, the Gemara in Shabbat Daf Gimel. Someone that respects and loves Talmidei Chachamim, he will be zocheh to have children and perhaps son-in-laws that are Talmidei Chachamim. So says the Gemara, once they darshan this in the Bet Midrash, everybody turned their face to Rabba Bar Rava, because he was one such case. They looked at Rava, the son of Rabba, because Rabba was a Talmid Chacham, was someone that respected Talmidei Chachamim, loved Talmidei Chachamim tremendously, and he was zocheh to have a person of tremendous stature of Torah as his son. So says the Gemara, Rav Ashi Amar Kol ha'ohev lelamed lilmod behamon. Now there's going to be a little change over here, lilmod or lelamed. So whoever loves to learn himself, behamon in the group, behamon in masses, he has the tevuah. Lo tevuah, he will have real Torah, right? Which means, says the Gemara, let me explain to you. V'hainu de'amar Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Chanina. This is what Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Chanina said, and we have had this multiple places. We had it in Ta'anit, Avzayin. We've had this in Masechet Brachot, towards the end in Daf Samech Gimel Amud Bet. Damar Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Chanina. My dichtiv, what does it say in the pasuk? Cherev al abadim v'no'alu. Sword chas v'shalom will be to the loners, and they will become, they'll be in a no'al, means they'll be in a very difficult situation. Cherev al savare sonehem shel talmidei chachamim, says the Gemara, it will be a sword to chas v'shalom, the enemies of Talmidei Chachamim. That's a way of saying Talmidei Chachamim without saying it. Sheyoshvim v'oskim b'Torah bad b'bad, that they sit and learn Torah alone, without a chavruta, without a chabura, without a group learning. Because when you learn alone, if you have eaten cholent beforehand, you fall asleep. If you're tired, you fall asleep. And then if you're not sharp enough, you're going to misunderstand the Gemara. Sometimes you feel, overwhelmed. They just don't show up or come late, leave early. You won't learn properly unless you are in a situation that you have somebody to sharpen yourself against that person. You say something, some fights, you say, who says that's the pshat? It's not the pshat, you got wrong pshat. And now you have to prove yourself. You either win or you lose, but however you slice it, you will understand the Gemara, the learning much better when you have a chavruta. When you are learning with the chabura, is the same thing. The Rebbe says something, and then 50 people are going to jump at him and say, who says? Not in a bad way, but now he has to explain it. And because he has to explain it, he has to prepare well. And he has to prepare, and he says something wrong, they'll ask him and he has to fix it. As we're going to have in just a moment in the Gemara. But if a person learns alone, right? He's like up in the air. You have no idea if you understood it correctly, if you didn't understand it correctly, how much he's going to learn even, how much he's going to retain. This is the Gemara that we had in Bava Metzia. We've mentioned this before, that Rabbi Yochanan used to be chavrutas with Resh Lakish. The Gemara in Bava Metzia, Daf Pedalit, that when Resh Lakish died, Rabbi Yochanan was depressed. They tried to give him, Rabbi Lazar, the Mara de Ara de Yisrael. He was one of the most tremendous Talmidei Chachamim in Eretz Yisrael, Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, and they started learning, and at some point Rabbi Yochanan stops the learning. He says, "Efo at ve'efo Badr Rekisha." Where is you and where is Resh Lakish? You're not comparable. I would say something, Resh Lakish would ask me 24 questions. I had to answer 24 answers. And because of the discussion and the back and forth, Rav Hashmata, I would learn. He would learn. Everything was clear. You, whatever I say, you're correct. There's a brighter like this, like you. There's a support from there. Well, I want support. I want kashas. I want questions. I want challenge. Without a challenge, a person really does not. You could check in and check out in Daf Yomi for cycle after cycle. But if you have chavruta, that's amazing, by the way, not chas v'shalom, putting that down. But if you really want to learn, you got to have a chavruta. If you really want to learn, you have to have someone that you examine yourself against them. So it says the Gemara, chas v'shalom, a curse is brought to Talmid Chacham when he's sitting bad bevad, and not only that, they become foolish. They become tipesh because there's nobody there to tell you if you're learning correctly or not. So you think you're understanding it, and you go deeper and deeper in your mistakes. You have one mistake, and then you build on top of that another mistake and another mistake. It just becomes an increasing system of getting things wrong. Ketiv hacham v'no'alu. How do I know? Because it says cherev al habadim v'no'alu, and later on pasuk says asher no'alnu, right? So you see that they become tipshim ve'lo'od, and not only that, ela shechotin. They also end up sinning. Well, of course, if you get wrong pshat, you will sin. We'll see this also in the upcoming daf in the Gemara, but you see it all over the place. The Gemara in Baba Batra, for instance, in Daf Chaf Aleph, the Gemara says that Yoav ben Surya, I'm saying this because I'm going to come back to this example from Yoav again, but the Gemara there says Yoav ben Surya learned something wrong from his Rebbe, because it says Timche Zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim lo tishkach, right, by Parashat Zachor, and he learned Timche Zachar Amalek. Doesn't have nikudot, right? Because Zecher Zachar. So he went to kill Amalek. He killed all the men and boys, all the other ones. Why? The ultimate mitzvah of Timche V'chiyat Amalek, he got it wrong because of one little innocent mistake, seemingly innocent mistake. And Chotin, says the Gemara, if you were chazering that Gemara in Baba Batra with your chavruta a bunch of times, then your chavruta would smack you across the face and says, it's not zecher, you fool, it's not zachar, it's zecher. So it says the Gemara, V'lo ela shchotin shneimar v'asher chatanu. So asher no'alnu v'asher chatanu. The continuation of no'alnu leads you to chatanu. So it says the Gemara, v'bayden me'acha. Or I could tell you from a different pasuk. No'alu sareh so'an. That it talks about, again, the language of no'alu, and this is exact comparison with the language of cherev al habadim ve'no'alu. It says no'alu sareh so'an, that even the leading individuals will be badbach, would be downgraded. So says the Gemara, Ravina Amar. Ravina says it's not talking about someone that learns, but someone that is teaching. Says the Gemara, Al kol ha'ohev lelamed behamon. Whoever loves to teach the masses, lo tevuah, he will have the produce. He will have the Torah. V'hainu de'amar. And this is what we learned. We had this together in Masechet Ta'anit Daf Zayin. Harbe lamati. This is the Amar Rebbe. Harbe lamati Torah. Harbe Torah lamati mirabotai. I learned a lot of Torah from my Rebbeim, from my teachers. Umechaverai yoter mehem. From my chavrutas, I learned even more. So when you learn with chavruta, as we just mentioned right now, you have to clarify. You say something, they bash you. You have to prove yourself or prove them, and go the back and forth. The beautiful back and forth is going to bring about a lot of clarity. And you know what I learned the most of my chokhmah from? Umitalmidai yoter mikulan. From my students, I learned the most. Hence, says the Gemara, someone that loves to teach. This is Ravina, right? Ravina and Ravashi, the author of the Gemara, the co-author of the Gemara. Someone that loves to teach to the masses, he will end up with the real tevuah, because he'll say something and 50 people have to review that in their brains, and they come and say, Rabbi, what about this? How about that? What about that? Right? And there you have the Maribe Rav. In the time of Maram Bet Yosef, he was one of the mighty Rashi Yeshivot in Eretz Yisrael, and he had many Talmidim, and he had one of the things that he had in Yeshiva, every Talmid had mastered Baal Peh, backwards and forwards, one of the Masechtot of Shas. And he used to call them with the name of the Masechta. This guy was Yevamot, this one was Ketuvot, the other one was Bechorot, that was Chulin. And they knew it like, with all the Rishonim and Aharonim. And imagine, you want to open your mouth to say Dvar Torah in front of these people. You have the entire living Shas in front of you. You say anything, they'll shred you to pieces if you make a mistake. And that's good, because if you do and you're dissected, every single thing that you say will be oisgehalten, would be stamped with the stamp of approval, or it will be scrutinized and it will be fixed up, and you get to actually learn properly. So mitalmida yoter mikulan. It's a beautiful, not a tzava'ah, but in the beginning of the tshuvot of Rav Kiva Eger, Rav Kiva Eger says to his son directives of how to print his tshuvot that was going to be printed after his passing. Rav Kiva Eger was the king of achronim, like in the world of yeshivot, like the most scientific, solid of the names within the achronim is Rav Kiva Eger. Rabbi Akiva Eger was one of the most humble, tremendous individuals in Klal Yisrael. He was the father-in-law in the second marriage of the Chatam Sofer, and he writes to his son. He says, well, when you want to print my tshuvot, if there are duplicates, even though that may be a little bit chidush in the second one, just print one of them. People don't have to read. It's not a matter of like putting a lot of volumes out. If I spoke about it already, just take the best one and print one, leave the other one out. One. Secondly, he says, people write to'arim because socially they feel proper to write titles. Imagine for Rav Kiva Eger, probably they wrote an entire page of titles, right? Accurate. And he says, leave all of those out. So there's no titles. If you read Shavot of Rav Kiva Eger, it's like, looks like someone said, good morning, Shalom Aleichem, and then he also says Shalom Aleichem, and he goes right into the thing. Probably each one of them had like a page or two of tremendous ta'arim. It was and it says also, I wrote back to them based on what was proper for the social cues and social sensitivities. Leave those also out, because if I don't like it, they probably also don't like it. What you don't like to be done to you, don't to other people. Look at the humility. And then he says something amazing. This second one is probably the most famous. Everyone knows that about Rav Kiva Eger. But the third one is unknown and is, I think, even more profound. He says that many of the tshuvot that I wrote is to my people who went through my yeshiva, right? People who were at some point in my yeshiva. That's his language, not students. And says Rav Kiva Eger, he says, I never in my life called anyone a talmid. Never in my life. But I don't write, this is not, they didn't have like copy machines and Xerox and so on. So how did you print a tshuva? He wrote a letter, and he had somebody that was taking a copy of it because they wanted to keep a copy and send a copy to the person that wrote the letter. So he says sometimes you find them being referred to as my Talmidim. That's because the person that rewrote it, he knew that this guy was in my yeshiva and he wrote to my Talmid. Mistake. I would never write that. So whenever you find anything like that, take them out. I would never want anyone to be referred to as my students, because who knows who's a student? Maybe I'm his student. Because I learned this Gemara. Mitalmidai yoter mikulam. My ultimate Rebbeim are my Talmidim. Who knows? In the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the Rebbe and who is the Talmid? It's a sign of tremendous humility and anava of a Gaon Rabbi Akiva Eger, but it's a tremendous thing to see it. This is the Gemara. Mitalmidai yoter mikulam. Amar, I always used to say, calling people students is very presumptuous, but you see that Rav Akiva Eger, how he dealt with this is a tremendous thing. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, my dichtiv umdot hayu raglun b'sha'arayich Yerushalayim. When it says our feet was standing by the gates of Yerushalayim, umdot hayu raglenu b'sha'arayich Yerushalayim. Why I say sha'arayich Yerushalayim? Why can't you just say we were in Yerushalayim? So says the Gemara, so powerful about the importance of Torah. Very timely. What caused our stability in endurance in milchama, in the war? You know, what was the zchut that we stood in the war and we won the wars? And we could deal with them. Sha'arei Yerushalayim, shehayu oskim b'Torah. That's Sha'arim hamitzuyanim ba'alacha. The gates of Torah in Yerushalayim. The zchut of the Torah was what caused us to be successful in Torah. We of course know in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, for elef lemate tishlachu, that for every 1,000 people who went to war, there are 1,000 people learning non-stop in the Bet Midrash behind, that provided the zchut, the spiritual force behind every one of those soldiers who were in battlefield. But again, we see this from Moshe Rabbeinu, from the ultimate first war against Amalek, that Moshe Rabbeinu was standing in tefillah, and the Gemara says, "Well, Yedei Moshe also tefillah, also milchama is the hands of Moshe." No, but whenever we have the zchut of people looking to Shamayim, realizing that ultimately the zchut of the Torah is what causes them the victory and success, that's when the soldiers actually will be successful as well. So it's like a dichotomy of going to war, having an army and military, but at the same time realizing that the ultimate thing is from Sha'arei Yerushalayim, from the Sha'arim HaMetzuyanim Ba'alacha, שעוסקים בתורה. ואמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, another memra from Rabbi Yehusha ben Levi, מה תכתיב? שיר המעלות לדוד, this is beautiful. שמחתי באומרים לי, בית השם נלך. שיר המעלות לדוד, David HaMelech had a song, part of the Tehillim over here. שמחתי באומרים לי, David HaMelech says, I became happy. I was happy when people told me, בית השם נלך. When will we go to Yerushalayim? Right? Awesome. People would tell David, when will we go to Yerushalayim? We can't wait. Why would you say that? Right? This is a Mizmor Kuf Chaf Bet of Tehillim, because everybody knew that David HaMelech really wanted to build the Bet HaMikdash, right? And he actually, if you take a look at Mizmor Kuf Lamed Bet, 10 Mizmorim later, it's like not in order that way. There, the Melech says, "Asher nishpa la'avi," he swore when Hiro Melech Tzur built a palace, a magnificent palace of Arazim for David HaMelech. He came and he saw this beautiful mansion, palace, and he said, he took an oath. He said, I am not entering this palace. I am not only that, I'm not even putting my head down on a pillow until I find the place of the rightful place of the Beit HaMikdash, because I'm going to live in this, and the Aron of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be in a tent without the Beit HaMikdash being built. That's disrespectful. So he made an oath that he's not going to go to sleep until he found, and he went with Natan and Navi for 3 days, and he found the Makom of Harav and the rightful place of the Beit HaMikdash. He comes home at night. Hashem sends Natan and Navi in the middle of the night to go wake him up. It says before he makes another shvuah that he's going to not go to sleep until he builds the Beit HaMikdash, go tell him, I don't want him to build the Beit HaMikdash. I love him to death, but I don't want him to build the Beit HaMikdash because he's a warrior, he has spilled blood, and a person like that cannot build the ultimate place of peace. So his son Shlomo is going to build the Beit HaMikdash, right? That's what he came and told him. So David HaMelech says, everyone knew that, of course, right? By the way, in parentheses, David HaMelech spent the next 35 years of his life, every beautiful thing that he took in Milchama or his government acquired, he stored them away for the building of the Beit HaMikdash. That when he dies and Shlomo HaMelech takes over, immediately he has everything. He has all the gold and silver and wood and everything in the world to right away be able to build the Beit HaMikdash. It's the love of David HaMelech, right? So David HaMelech says, people will come to me and say, David, we can't wait to go to Beit HaMikdash. What does that mean? Let's see the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Says David HaMelech, Amar David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel Olam, Shamati b'nei Adam. People would come to me and they would say, Shayu omri matai yamut zaken ze. When is this old geezer gonna die already? V'yavo Shlomo beno v'yivnei Beit HaMikdash, Beit HaBechira, and his son Shlomo is gonna come build the Beit HaBechira. V'na'aleh la'regel. And we're going to finally go to Beit HaMikdash, go to Aliyat Regel. This whole machloket over here, if Aliyat Regel in time of Mishkan Shiloh was a mitzvah or not. But that's the time is not going to allow for that. V'samachti, says David, I was happy. You think I was sad? Between my kavod and your kavod, Hashem, every day of the year is your kavod that I want. Even if it means that I have to die for your kavod to be glorified. That's what I want. V'samachti. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, look at this powerful answer of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to David HaMelech. Ki tov yom bechasrecha me'alef bacharti. Hashem says, I choose one day with you from 1,000. What does that mean? Tov li yom echad shata osek b'Torah. One day of your learning and you're saying the shirim of Tehillim and connecting with me is more precious to me lefanai me'elef olot she'atid. Shlomo bincha le'akrib lefanai. From 1,000 korban oz that Shlomo, elef olot yaleh Shlomo, the pasuk says. That's why it's referring to a different pasuk. That from 1,000 olot that Shlomo is going to bring in front of me, one day of your learning, with that type of heart, with that type of mindset, that's what I choose from the wisest man alive, bringing 1,000 korbanot in front of me. Al gabe hamizbeach. By 2 dots in the last line. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue this in the days to come.